Meanwhile, with tensions running high between the two countries, some Canadians are calling on their leaders to cut off power to the U.S. As Yvette Brand reports, others are urging negotiators to tear up a decades-old water treaty that ensures the U.S. gets reliable power.
Gears up for its election, Donald Trump has pledged to bring more water to drought-stricken California from Canada. While his promise isn't exactly a plan, he did sort of suggest water from British Columbia could just be diverted through Oregon and into the Golden State.
Columbia announced that the U.S. government has paused negotiations on the expansive Columbia River Treaty, saying the current administration is reviewing its international engagements.
A quiet struggle is unfolding across North America, one that carries far greater consequences than a trade dispute or a diplomatic spat.
We have millions of gallons of water pouring down from the north with the snow caps in Canada and all pouring down. And they have essentially a very large faucet.
Fault line runs through rivers, lakes, and the invisible currents beneath the soil. This isn't just politics anymore. It's about control over life itself.
It wouldn't have much impact on the current situation, which is an immediate and vicious attack on Canadian sovereignty that we have to respond to.
It all started when Donald Trump shocked both Washington and Ottawa by demanding a new deal over water. Not oil, not cars, water. He said the United States was being treated unfairly under the decades-old Columbia River Treaty, a pact that lets both countries share water and hydropower from rivers that cross the border. But Trump didn't see it as sharing. He saw it as America getting the short end of the stick. In one of his trademark speeches, he hinted that Canada was sitting on a massive faucet while the US faced drought, crop losses, and shrinking reservoirs. And in typical Trump fashion, he didn't whisper it behind closed doors. He said it loud enough for the world to hear. He called for rebalancing the treaty, even suggesting that America had a right to more of Canada's water. That one statement was enough to set off alarm bells in Ottawa. Canadian leaders and citizens saw it as a direct challenge, not just a policy, but to sovereignty. Because in Canada, water isn't a business asset. It's something sacred, part of the land, part of the national identity. Suddenly, what started as a technical treaty review turned into a showdown between two visions: America's thirst for security versus Canada's fight to protect its natural pride. And behind closed doors, government insiders say Trump's advisors were already exploring cross-border water infrastructure projects, giant pipelines that could, in theory, send Canadian water south. That's when things really started heating up, because Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney wasn't about to stay silent. He was about to deliver a message that would stop Washington in its tracks and draw a line that no American president had dared cross before. When the White House made its move, Canada didn't wait long to fire back. Prime Minister Mark Carney, calm, confident, and often called the banker who saved Britain, stepped up to a microphone in Ottawa and made one thing crystal clear: Canada's water is not for sale. Not now, not ever. Those words hit like a thunderclap. In just one sentence, Carney went from being a mild technocrat to a symbol of national pride. He wasn't talking about a small issue. He was drawing a line between two very different futures. One where water is treated like a global commodity, and another where it stays under Canadian control. Behind the scenes, US diplomats were stunned. They thought Canada would negotiate quietly, maybe adjust a few terms in the Columbia River Treaty. Instead, they got a full-blown political storm. News networks across both countries exploded with debate. Some American commentators accused Canada of hoarding water. Others praised Carney for standing up to Trump's bold, and some said reckless, demand. And in Canada, the reaction was electric. Hashtags like "hands off our water" and "Carney vs. Trump" trended for days. Ordinary Canadians began seeing water not just as a resource, but as a symbol of independence. Something worth fighting for. What made it even more intense was timing. The western US was facing one of its worst droughts in decades. Reservoirs were drying up, crops were dying, and states like California and Arizona were in crisis. So when Trump demanded more access to Canadian rivers, it didn't sound crazy to many struggling farmers. It sounded like survival, but Carney didn't flinch. He knew once Canada gave even a drop, the floodgates could open forever. As one Canadian official official whispered to reporters, "If we give in now, we'll never get control back." And that's when the debate stopped being diplomatic and started becoming personal, because Trump wasn't done, and neither was Carney. The next move would turn this quiet policy fight into a full-blown geopolitical battle. At first, both sides tried to keep things calm, but that didn't last long. Leaks started pouring out from Washington and Ottawa. Secret memos, trade briefings, even emails hinting at US plans to reassess cross-border resource access. And just like that, the quiet negotiations were over. This had become a public war. Trump took to his favorite stage, a rally in Texas, where he told the crowd that Canada is holding all the cards while American farmers are drying up. He called it unfair and said the US would do whatever it takes to fix it. The crowd went wild. For his supporters, this wasn't about water anymore. It was about America getting pushed around. Within hours, Canadian media fired back. Clips of Trump's speech filled the evening news, and commentators accused him of trying to weaponize water. Carney appeared on national TV, calm as ever, saying, "We don't negotiate with threats. Canada decides how to use its resources, not Washington." That soundbite became a rallying cry. People started hanging blue ribbons, the symbol of Canada's rivers, outside their homes. But behind the scenes, both governments were scrambling. Advisors warned that the standoff could spill over into other areas, like trade, tariffs, and even defense cooperation. One insider said, "If this keeps going, we'll see ripple effects across everything from agriculture to auto exports." Then came the twist that shocked everyone. Satellite images surfaced online showing new US water diversion projects near the border. Small, legal, but aggressive. Canadian analysts called it a pressure tactic. American officials called it routine maintenance. But the damage was done. Trust between the two allies hit its lowest point in decades. And while diplomats begged both leaders to cool down, Trump's team was already preparing a major announcement, one that would change the tone of the entire debate. Because what came next wasn't about water policy. It was about power and how far each leader was willing to go to protect it. Once the standoff went public, the real battle began behind closed doors. Trump's team started talking about mega projects, giant pipelines, new hydroelectric infrastructure, and massive water transfer networks. They framed it as a solution to drought in the American West, but in Canada, it sounded like a blueprint for dependency. Analysts called it cooperative flow, but Carney and his advisors saw it differently. To them, it was a red flag. If even a fraction of Canadian water started moving south, the US could slowly gain leverage over Canada's resources. And once leverage exists, sovereignty starts slipping away, almost imperceptibly at first. Then came the trade threats. Reports surfaced that the White House was considering tariffs on Canadian goods unless negotiations accelerated. Some diplomats quietly compared it to a chess game. Every pipeline plan, every speech, and every leaked memo was a move on the board. But it wasn't just politics. Environmental experts warned that diverting water on such a scale could devastate ecosystems. Fish populations could collapse. Wetlands could dry up. Entire watersheds could be altered forever. Carney made it clear the price of short-term cooperation could be the long-term destruction of Canada's natural heritage. Meanwhile, Americans facing parched farmland and shrinking reservoirs cheered Trump's bold plan. They saw it as common sense. Share resources where there's plenty, fix the crisis where there's scarcity. Yet the Canadian public wasn't convinced. For them, water isn't a commodity. It's part of their identity, their culture, and their future. Selling it even partially would feel like giving away a piece of the nation itself. As the media frenzy grew, leaks hinted at even bigger stakes: energy production, cross-border hydropower rights, and water storage contracts. Suddenly, what looked like a simple treaty discussion was revealing a complex tangle of economics, environmental risk, and political power plays. And through it all, Carney remained steady. He wasn't just defending water, water. He was defending Canada's ability to decide its own future. Every word, every policy briefing, every interview was a subtle warning. Water isn't just a resource, it's the foundation of our sovereignty, and we won't give it away. In the end, this battle isn't just about water, it's about who gets to decide their own future. Trump frames it as necessity. The US is thirsty, the West is drying out, and something has to be done. Carney frames it as defense. Canada's water is a public trust, a part of the nation's soul, and giving it away would be like selling a piece of the country itself. The standoff exposes a deeper question. In a world where resources are scarce, should survival outweigh sovereignty, or should national identity and the environment come first, no matter the pressure from abroad? For Canada, the answer is clear. Some things are non-negotiable. For the US, the drought grows more desperate by the day, and as climate change accelerates, this isn't just a North American fight, it's a warning for the world. Water is power, and the next great conflicts may be over what keeps us alive.